So we're talking about intellectual property and disputes that can happen because of intellectual property. And when we talk about intellectual property, we're really talking about ideas and products of the human imagination. Think Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. That's intellectual property. Create is something that you can't touch and feel it, but it's real. And so that breaks down into 4 overall categories. You've got patents, which has, it has to do with machinery and processes and solutions. You've got trademarks and trade names, which is branding, basically. You've got copyrights, which is ideas that are put on paper, film, media, music, any kind of medium. And then you've got trade secrets and confidential information. All of those happen in a business dispute or in a business setting. And the first thing that I'll say about the Sierra Crest Business Law Group is we do not hold ourselves out as experts in all of the intellectual property areas. We hold ourselves out as trusted legal advisors who will have a conversation with you about protecting your intellectual property, and then we will help you find the resources and the people who can help you do that. You have business disputes, and then you have business disputes over intellectual property. The main difference, I would say, for intellectual property disputes and litigation is that there are federal and state laws that protect patents, trademarks, trade names, copyrights, and to some degree trade secrets. There's a very specific format you follow to register your patent, copyright, trademark, trade name. And once you register that item of intellectual property, you have rights for a certain amount of time, and there are a lot of statutory penalties, and usually those get litigated in federal court, although sometimes in state court. And there's a whole system and a process that's kind of set aside by itself for resolving those disputes. So we've talked about the types of intellectual property that there are. There's patents, trademarks and trade names, there's copyrights, there's trade secrets. And this is going to sound kind of dumb, but the most common type of intellectual property dispute out there is just people outright copying. And it's always been just the plague of humanity. You go to a big city and you're walking down the street, someone wants to sell you knockoff goods or a knockoff recording. It's all about knocking off, and it's usually very blatant. And guess what? Now we have the internet and we have AI, and there are situations where someone can build a profitable online business and someone else will see that and they'll just copy the website, copy all the content of the website, maybe make a few tweaks here and there and just put it up. And there's a lot of blatant copying going on. The number one thing to do to protect your intellectual property before a dispute arises, and what that means is once the dispute arises, it's usually too late. You've got to do it while it's easy. So for example, you're opening a restaurant, you have a catchy name, Julio's Crab Shack. Well, the best time to decide if you can live or die on the name Julio's Crab Shack is before you put the sign up. Hire an attorney to spend 2 or 3 hours doing research and seeing if it's going to conflict with somebody else. And if you have to change it to, Julio's Lobster Shack or whatever you do, that's the time to do it before you've bought all the collateral and invested heavily in branding the name. And the same thing applies, to your copyright, to your patent. Do it at the beginning. Be in communication with a professional, an attorney who knows how to do that. And if you're in communication with us, we'll help you identify that you have something to protect, and we'll make sure that you're talking to someone who's qualified to actually register and file that for you. If you have followed the registration procedures for your intellectual property, you do have some pretty consequential and effective remedies. They can include your damages, multiples of your damages, punitive damages. You can get orders from the court stopping the infringing behavior. You can require the infringer to turn over their ill-gotten profits to you. You have lots of very powerful remedies. If you have any questions about intellectual property and how to protect it, how to defend it, give us a call at the Sierra Crest Business Law Group.